Hey everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to What It Flipping Takes. I'm Jecka St. John, your host, and today I have with you some special guests. Eric B., he's with REIG. They're a big renovation company here in San Diego. And Jonathan Mann, EXP. He's a realtor that's been around for a long time, and he works with all different types of investors and does all different areas of real estate. So glad to have them. Thank you for joining.
Thank you. I appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Jecka.
It's an honor.
All right. Well, this is our first show. This is about what it flipping takes to flip homes. Today in San Diego, the flipping world is crazy, right?
It is.
I mean, there's flippers coming out of the woodworks. There's flipping schools. There's flipping classes, courses, you name
Everybody
it.
wants to be a flipper.
Everyone, the mom and pops to big companies want to be a flipper. It seems like that's kind of their dream. So Eric, you being with REIG and being with other big investment companies in the past, what do you think of how many investors are out there? What's the competition like?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm active in the market every single day as a buyer, so I run across all sorts of different types of buyers or competition from a buying perspective, including, the end user buyer, right? So with the market being as aggressive as it is and people with the availability of houses being as low as it is, inventory being low, that, it's competitive as can be. So, we just have to do the right things and treat our clients right to make sure the deal is good.
And I know you and REIG revolve your principles around integrity, and despite the bad reputation that flipping companies can have, how are you guys different, and what makes you stand out, and why would a seller want to work with you guys versus maybe some guy that doesn't have an address?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question, and I think good buyers come in every shape and form. It's not to say that a good real estate buyer has to be like REIG or a big shop like that. There can be a kind of a small mom and pop type of buyer that's great. So I don't want to really discredit any one person, but I can tell you from our perspective that what we bring to the table is just a lot of experience. And so we're a well-built team to do exactly what we do well, which is buy it, fix it, and then sell it. So we're truly like an engine that way for the median product of real estate. So anything 3-bedroom, 2-bath, and that general median type of market, man, we pay as much as we possibly can. We're as aggressive as we can, and we bring a lot of experience to the table. So, and I think experience wins a lot, and especially in this type of market when it's really dynamic. You have to really know the market well to present competitive options that make sense for sellers.
Okay, awesome. Well, I know with being a listing agent, having fixers, and working with you guys and working with several different investors that I will get blown up with phone calls. I mean, if I have a fixer on the market, I will get a gazillion phone calls from different investors. And, it seems like I'm very leery of some of the investors because of, how they push a really high offer, and then at times they get that locked up, and then they, at that point, try to strong arm you once they have the deal locked up.
Right.
Some of these types of, whether it's an agent or an investor directly, they give out that.
Are you talking about the deal we're working on right now? Is that what's going on?
We deal with some really, really hard deals, but it's crazy because there are so many investors out there, and there's so many wannabes. And I'm not crushing the wannabes, but everyone has to start somewhere. But what I try to educate some of these sellers is that when you're working with big companies where you can actually go and track them down, they have an actual
address. There's people there. There's a team.
Right. And telling these sellers that you need to work with these investors who are not just going to strong arm you, or you have to look at the offers and see if they're realistic. You have to see what kind of financing they really are, because a lot of these cash investors, they don't really have cash. They say they're cash, but they're hard money. And that hard money lender still has to get that hard money approved. So even though they're coming in as a cash buyer and then they go and get their hard money and then say the hard money lender says, no, I'm sorry, I don't see how you're going to get this value, and then they decline it, and then the whole deal falls apart and you wasted 3 weeks, right? So, Jonathan, is that something that you deal with too on one side?
Well, I think, Jackie, you know how to deal with that scenario if it comes up. We prevent that as real estate agents when we're selling homes for our clients. We kind of can spot the wolf in sheep's clothing, and I mean that's really what we're supposed to be doing, and we bring a lot of experience to the table. Maybe that was something that happened in the past once, but then it doesn't happen again because we understand. So once bit, twice shy,
right?
And that first time we were bit was a long time ago,
right?
Sure.
So it comes with experience of being able to.
So that would never happen to you.
Right.
Yeah.
Hope not.
No, it wouldn't. It wouldn't. I mean, you sniff it right out now.
Right.
I mean, it's just
right. Exactly. And I think with all the reality shows that are going on now, with all these flipping shows too, I think that's made flipping so popular, and a lot of times they're false reality that they're watching these shows. Oh, I made $100,000 on this house. Blah blah. How does that affect you? What do you think? Behind the scenes of like HGTV, did the shows make them look a little more easier, or do you?
Well, I mean, yeah, sure they do. It's a show, and I had the fortunate time to work with Than, Paul, and Conrad, who were on the Flip This House show, and I got to really kind of hear their inside perspective of being on the show and how it really impacted them, and it's funny how people really connect to what they see on TV. It's a really powerful medium because we run into people in the field and they just if they make that connection and they like that show or something, they really gravitate towards.
They want to be on the show.
They want to be on the show, or they just want to work with you, or have questions about that, or there's just this kind of crazy thing, and that's the one side of it. And then the other side is that people watch that and it sparks that entrepreneurial bug, and then they think, okay, I can do this, and if they can do the husband-wife team on the show, then we're better than that, or we could do that, or something like this. I know I've definitely been there, done that, and seen it, and so it does. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we all know it's not cut out for everybody. It's not as easy as it looks per se, and it's truly risky out there. And so you got to really work with professionals, and that's just the truth of the matter.
I think what you're trying to say is that it's harder, more expensive, takes longer, and is riskier
than anybody
than the TV will ever even bother trying to communicate. So
it's funny because as realtors, we get that all the time. I think is that nowadays you can look back and see what the house sold for. So it's like, well, that investor bought it for $100,000 less. And you get that all the time. It's like, well, they just bought it 3 months ago for $100,000 less. Like, they're making $100,000 off this property, and you're going, are you calculating in the actual expense to fix it, and then the holding costs? Like, there's not that much of a margin of the return.
Well, because what happens in escrow is the new buyer goes, you get the house for $100,000 less, but when escrow closes, you go back to the house and it's all sparkly new and perfect.
Right.
That's what it, and so everyone says like, oh, okay, cool, because it costs you nothing. It's just, it's a magic thing that occurs.
But it's funny because even realtors
people know
are
that,
like,
right?
well, they're making $100,000. They bought it for $100,000 less, and it's like, do you think it magically came that way? It's like there is so much cost involved that people don't realize the risk that each flipper is taking, and I think a lot of these flipping companies have gone out of business because they make one mistake and they end up not being able to, recoup from that. So
it can be costly.
Sometimes it's not even like a mistake. There's so many things that are just you can predict as much as you can. You can
Control the chaos.
You know, sometimes you've got the ability to do a ton of inspections, but guess what? You know, things come up. You're not opening up walls in escrow.
Nope.
You know, inspections are limited, and I think the amount of surprises that can come up. I mean, I've been in this for a long time, done over 1,500 homes. New things still come up. You know? And I tell people, like every single day, it's like there's something new for me to experience and learn and overcome every single week. And I've been at this for a while.
Right. And Eric, you came from an appraisal background and a real estate family, so you kind of grew up in this industry. Do you think that appraisal background really helps when you evaluate properties here?
Sure. I think I just have a solid understanding of the principles of establishing value and how that impacts the whole process all the way through. And there's checks and balances of the process. And so, I mean, I guess I know the rules really well because I've been a part of it. I was appraising full-time through, right into the crash and all of that in the market. So I learned a lot from that and from an experience perspective. And I absolutely carry that with me. But at the end of the day, it's really just understanding and being disciplined to the fundamentals of real estate. And it's not always as glamorous as people make it seem, or as as easy.
It's not like TV, right?
Yeah.
So, Jonathan, I've watched you for years because, all realtors stalk each other just a little bit. Especially when you don't get your offer accepted. You're like, who is this guy? Let me check him out. So anyways, back in the day, Jonathan Mann, he still is, big player in the industry, but I noticed him a long time ago, 10 years ago, doing a lot of these flips and the sales of the flips and working with a lot of investors. The down market really brought a lot of attention to starting these flipping companies. So given, all your experience with just the real estate market in general, from the downturn to the upturn, what's your overview of how your company runs now, and what real estate are you into now that the market has corrected itself? Where are you at with how you run your business?
That's a really good question. You're always having to adapt. The downturn had these upswing downturn times even within that 2008 to 2012 period. You never want to be caught, like on the wrong side of that sort of thing. And at the end of the day, I mean, sometimes you are. Things have definitely gotten harder. I think you kind of spoke to that a little bit. I guess we're competitors in essence. But I mean, you have to get sharper. You've got to, there's definitely a calculated risk that you need to be able to take. I think it's, the law of averages. You're going to win some, you're going to lose some. Some are going to be grand slams. Some are going to be just complete. I don't know. Try and keep it G-rated or PG. I was going to say something else. But so over the course of 20, 30, or 40 deals, hopefully you're in the green, or in the black. So, you're constantly getting better with every single deal. Again, we kind of talked about what are the unforeseen things that come up, and again, anticipating those things. And so you just really have to take your experience that you've gained on the previous successes or failures. Failures are good things if we learn, right?
With you starting kind of the same time I did in 07, 08, do you feel that starting in the distressed market and dealing with all the craziness of that downturn, do you think that it really helped you in a positive way to build your career? The fact that you learned when it was a pretty untraditional way of doing real estate.
Let me say this. I got started. I didn't even know it was a down market. I didn't even know. I didn't know.
You know what? I thought it was a gold
Perspective is
mine
everything.
when I was like,
know,
half price homes, great.
Yeah,
Like,
you just
get all my friends in them.
But again, before I sold my first house in 2008. So
Yeah.
my first house, I mean, that was my, that was just what it looked like to me. I mean, this is the houses, this is what they're priced at, go. I didn't really, it wasn't an analysis for me. And I mean, as naive as it sounds, I mean, that's just kind of where it went. And, then you just put your head down, you're grinding out, and you're,
Right.
by the grace of God, I just, the really, really excellent
Yeah.
clients and,
Right.
and people that I can work with, that I trust, that they trust me. We've built solid relationships. And, yeah, at one point it's like, wow, this is the, I remember one of my very great clients said, Jonathan, we're gonna, look back in 20, 30 years and be able to tell like our grandkids about what's happening in the market, like this whole meltdown, and it's true. And it was a big deal. It's scary. It was crazy. But kind of when you're in the eye of that storm, I mean, it's, you just kind of have a different perspective. So to answer your question, like how did it develop me in my career now? I think it just gave me a lot of experience. It gave me a lot of at-bats, to negotiate deals and to work with different agents and kind of know who's for real and who's out there doing, who's going to say who says what they do and do what they say. I think that's very important in our business. I think we kind of lead with that. Integrity is super critical, and I think it's, we talked earlier, REIG. I think the I stands for like integrity or something like that. It's an acronym.
Yeah.
What's the rest of the letters?
Yeah,
Do you know?
I really don't know, but integrity is absolutely one of them.
Right, but
I think it is a core value.
You need to practice that, Eric.
Yeah, I know.
yeah, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I was just
I've been asked in the field, and I should know, but I don't know.
no, but you guys do cool
Yeah.
things. I mean,
Yeah.
you guys market to me. You
Yeah.
guys market to a lot of agents and stuff like that. And a lot of your communication really does come around, focuses on vets, community, and that's kind of like our duty. We are, we're in this community. We're building houses for people to live in these communities, and so we do have an obligation. I think REIG does a really, knock-up job in that department. So.
I know with, a lot of people, and I don't know why, I think just some people get upset that, in neighborhoods, like, oh, they bought that house for $300,000, like, so cheap, maybe they think they took advantage of the homeowner or whatever, but the house is falling apart. Do you want to keep looking at this house? It costs $100 and something, just for a medium-priced home.
Sure.
You can't find anything for $300,000 anymore, hardly. So it's like you're getting this horrible condition home, and you're taking all your liability and you're putting your money into it and fixing it and getting a good family in there. There's no normal family can just get into one of those homes and they would never be able to fix it up like the way a renovation company could, and that's what I like, is that you are improving, and that's your guys' motto, is that you're improving these neighborhoods. And
Yeah, absolutely.
you would think all the neighbors would love that, which I think afterwards they do. They don't love that you bought it for so cheap, but then at the same time, it's like they need to understand the expenses that go into the actual renovation.
At the end of the day, it's just kind of a short-sighted perspective, right? And when that kind of initial shock maybe within the neighborhood, but I mean, I love having that conversation with neighbors and people, because at the end of the day, not only are we solving the problem of this house and the curb appeal of the neighborhood, but through the natural process of the market, we're improving the value of their home. We're adding a renovated comp to the neighborhood that has an immediate value impact if they were to, if their house is a comparable. So I guess the point is that at the end of the day, it helps them, and I love having that conversation where that aha moment happens with them, and they're like, oh yeah, you know what? Hey, this is something to get behind, or I don't need to constantly putting the brakes on something or questioning anything. If the company is really handling it right, it's a great thing for the neighborhood.
I want to add to that, because I've really had the opposite experiences only. When you come into a neighborhood and you kind of take that rundown house, the vacant house, you're taking a nuisance, okay, and you're turning it into something good.
Right.
And neighbors are usually thrilled, like super thrilled. They're excited. They love to watch the process of that house kind of transforming. They're amazed, like, because they never saw it. They never could, envision that property.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone's ever been like, oh, you bought that house for so cheap, and look at you, capitalist. Never really saw that, and I really do think people appreciate. I mean, it is a service that is being done, and you're creating a home, like I said, for a family that otherwise would not be there.
Right.
So.
Yeah,
So,
I'd be lying if I said it hasn't happened to me a couple times. It really has.
yeah, I've heard it. Just being like the realtor on the end, and people in the neighborhood, and it's usually the ones that have been there forever, and they knew, Grandma.
They need something to talk about.
So. They're just surprised that it went so low, and then once it's fixed up too, they're like, oh well, they made so much money, and they don't realize, they think that you won the lottery or something, but they should just be happy that the house is fixed up and they have a nice looking neighbor, young family or whatnot. So Jonathan, you have kind of, you worked through that distressed market, and then you kind of just came out of it, and now you're working more luxury properties, I see. And are you doing any flips or any kind of renovations on luxury?
I think all of us agents, what's the goal is to increase our average sale price. That's kind of what you're trained or what you learn. But for me, I think it's been it's definitely something that I like, just because I like architecture, I like design, I like that. It's just been something that's always been of interest to me, and so it just kind of plays into myself gravitating into that space, and then also bringing investors into that space to I guess play in that market as well.
Do you work with a handful of investors that you have relationships with now?
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, it's all about relationships. I mean, I find it really difficult to work with people that we don't have that, just natural trust, and people. I mean, I've operated on a handshake, probably more times than I ever should, but again, I've just been so blessed to be, to work with people that honor what they say,
right?
And I do the same thing. So
unfortunately, I mean, there are enough investors that we can kind of cherry pick our favorites, because you kind of blacklist the rest of them, and you cherry pick your favorites because that they're going to hold their integrity, and they're going to actually close the deal and not string you along or just whatever else investors pull. So
I think it's important to always kind of bring like a win-win kind of attitude to any transaction, and there's somebody, maybe they don't want to sell their house, but they kind of circumstances make it so that that's just what's going to have to happen. Okay, well, that person deserves dignity. They deserve a fair deal, and it doesn't ever feel good, for me to know that somebody was taken advantage of, and I think there are a lot of people out there that are like, have the same kind of, perspective as I do, but unfortunately there are some other people that are just kind of like, cutthroat, all about themselves, and that's fine. I mean, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So.
And are you still doing anything do you still have investors that go to auctions, the auction block, or
sure? That's a crowded party. It really is.
Yeah.
And I remember years and years ago. I mean, I spent a lot of time in front of that courthouse. Matter of fact, there was a time where, when you were on Google Maps, you could see me standing in front of the camera.
You're like,
someone told me, they're like, hey, look, you're on Google Maps.
Gosh.
And I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
6 hours in front of anywhere for every day. That's going to happen.
Eventually.
That's funny.
So
You
try
can
that. Try it
screenshot
anyway.
that.
But anyways, I mean, but there was a lot of things going on down there in those times. And now there's just a lot of people. A lot of people, one house.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So do you still go down to the auction? I mean,
I don't.
No, but
I
you have
don't.
a team or anything?
There are guys that are going down there every single day and getting their Google pictures taken.
Yeah, I heard that it was just more of a shit show, pretty much.
Yeah.
You know. Just,
so we can say that.
Yeah. Maybe, I don't know. Can we
I'm just
bleep?
No, the FCC doesn't chasing us down on Facebook.
Not yet.
Yeah.
So cuss all you want.
Yeah.
We're targeting adults anyway.
Yeah.
Just kidding.
That's
Just
funny.
kidding.
Hey, when you're in this investment world, I mean, I even have
Gosh.
a pretty bad mouth now. That's why it's what it flipping takes, because it's, you know, you want to say the other word, and you often do when you deal with
Well,
some
on a
of
construction site, you
Yeah.
know, it's a construction
this.
site.
I've got a construction mouth now because I'm dealing with all these guys. Like,
Jeez.
what the hell?
Well, I tell you, I cut my teeth at the auction steps too. And
Yeah.
that's a dose of reality when you understand the dynamics of that game and how it's played and the pitfalls that people manage through that process. It's quite the deal.
I mean, I think, you know, bottom line now is that, you know, a lot of these distressed sales have gone. We're still getting a lot of, you know, people that have passed away and they left a trust to their family, probates, just people who have lived in homes for a really long time. And there's just a ton of deferred maintenance, or someone that just doesn't want to deal with their house anymore. And they're just like, I don't want to pay commissions, just buy my house, you know, off market. You know, and it seems like a lot of the smaller guys, or maybe even some of the big guys, have gone out of the flipping market because it's just not as easy, and it's more renovating rather than flipping. You know, but
True.
are you happy? I mean, how do you feel? Like, do you feel like this is like things are getting tighter? I mean, inventory is tight in general. So then you've got the fixers. Yeah. So you've got bloodhounds coming after you after the property, you know, and same with the sellers. I feel bad for the homeowners because they're at home and there's investors driving by and they see a house that needs to be fixed, and they're like looking through the window seeing if it's vacant or knocking on the doors and getting offers delivered to the door, and you know they're going, oh, what do I do? I mean, you know, why do you think that homeowners should trust, you know, a bigger, like a company like yours or a realtor? I mean, why wouldn't they just sell it directly to the guy that shows up on their door with an offer?
Yeah, I think, I mean, you know, it all comes down to how well versed somebody is in real estate and how they feel comfortable managing something like that. I mean, if they're, you know, you want to work with professionals, I guess is my stance, and that's kind of a, you know, I don't see it any other way, you know. So, no, but that doesn't mean it's the only way, and by any stretch. But having been in the industry and worked with agents and as a buyer, and I've been a broker and an appraiser and everything, you know, leaning on good professionals is always the best thing. Now, I know I kind of contradict that to a certain extent because my niche of real estate is working directly with sellers before it goes to the market. So before it goes to an agent. So I would represent an option outside of working with an agent. It would be working with me or directly with me. And I think that I really have a lot of respect for that position. And I do a lot of analysis and present my clients with the best analysis that I can, just so they make the best decision for them, you know.
And another distressed property that comes up here or there now still are the short sales.
Yeah.
And I know that just with, you know, not everyone has recovered from, you know, especially if you're at a certain age, you're not getting your bonuses, or maybe you got laid off and never got rehired because of your age. Do you find that you're still getting, loan mods resetting, tax assessors being reset after, you know, 6 years, 7 years now they're resetting? Do you have any more short sales, Jonathan? Do you do any short sales at all, or are you afraid of them? Because I know the short sales that I deal with now, they're the ones with like 10 liens because they've been, you know, they've been there for so long that everything is chasing after these people.
That's, you know, honestly, I just don't see too many.
Yeah.
Do I chase them? No. Would I like shy away? No. You know, I think that it's just another opportunity that needs to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis, and probably something that you would need somebody that has experience and is versed in that particular type of transaction. It's going to help a lot, and then patience too, and then also the, you know, you got to be okay to be disappointed later on, because a lot of things you're just you wait a long time and you do a lot of stuff and jump through hoops, and then it's just a big fat nope at the end.
Yep.
So.
Yep. And the banks are still working the same way. It's the same long process, and it's the same paperwork and the same steps, and every T has to be crossed and every I dotted, and it's, you know, it's
well, and it's
crazy.
like what you said about you have 10 liens on this thing, or, you know, okay, you could have 9 people that are like, let's do it, and then one person says no.
Yep.
You know, and that's usually the case, is like the junior guy is just like, no way, Jose. Because they usually get toasted the most. And that's understandable.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think our time is almost up, you guys. Thank you so much for coming. And you guys can like our page, comment. Do we have any comments? I can't see. I don't have my glasses on.
Yeah, it says go Jekka.
Go Jekka, yay! But this is our first show, so thank you for tuning in. What It Flipping Takes, and this is Eric B. with REIG. They are the local big renovation company here in San Diego, and I've worked with them personally. They have integrity, and they could be trusted. So, Eric, what's your information that you can shout out?
Well, REIGrenovations.com is where we are. You can, if you're interested in selling your house or talking about a cash offer, that's what I do every single day. So I'd love to work with.
So if you want this handsome man showing up at your door, you never know where you're gonna go.
Yep.
But
he might show up there anyway.
Yeah. He might just show up.
You never know.
And then thank you, Jonathan, for coming on. Jonathan with EXP. And what's your info?
My info, jonathanmann.com, JONATHANMANN.com. And just leave it at that. I don't want to give my phone or cell phone out. I get enough phone calls as it is, right? So just hit our website. It's a little nice, and we're still working on it a little bit, but contact me through there, please.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for joining us, and thank you guys for tuning in.